Welcome to My Watches with Ben. Today's video is the sixth in a 6-video series on the wristwatch category of dive watch. This has been a huge undertaking. Today, I'm going to tell you what's the best dive watch out of all 633. I know which one's the best, and I'm going to tell you what it is. It's a process. It's definitely a process that we're going to go through in this video. I could just tell you what's the best right now, but no, we'll go through the process. Yeah, if you've watched all this from the beginning, thank you. Thank you for spending time with me, watching these videos. Hopefully, throughout this process, you've been able to learn some more dive watches, learn a lot more about the market, the dive watch market, kind of what goes into them, what differentiates one from another. Hopefully, you can think a little bit more critically when choosing a dive watch, kind of look at certain things, the crown guards, all these different things that go into it. But yeah, those first 5 videos were the foundation. In those 5 videos, I rated all the watches on a 100-point scale. And you can see here on the title screen, I've got watches shown here with rankings. And what we're doing in the 6th video is we're going to add more of the subjective factors. Because check this out, you've got this Rolex here with a score of 86. Over here, Momentum SQ30 Eclipse, 93. This has 7 points above the Rolex. Just specs-wise, I considered it to be a superior watch to the Rolex. And the reasons for it, it's got a day date, it's got more utility, it's got all these markings all the way around the bezel, the Rolex does not. It's got a full lume bezel. Factors like this put it up above the Rolex. But if in the real world, it's obvious the Rolex is better because the brand heritage, the looks, it looks a lot better. Stuff like that. Let me show you. So we're going to add, in this video 6, we're going to add 5 subjective factors. We're going to be looking at brand heritage, and this is going to add an additional 12 points. So I'm going to take the score, I'm going to shrink it down, whatever score it got. So like that 93 for the Momentum, I'm going to shrink it down, and then we're going to add points on top. And for brand heritage, there are 12 points allocated for brand heritage. Rolex is going to get all 12 because Rolex has one of the highest brand heritages of any watch. Secondly, is going to be looks than aesthetics. How good does it look? How good does the watch look? 12 more points. Third, lume impressiveness. So I already did include in the scoring some sort of lume factor, but it was just really like how much stuff is loomed. None of it was based on someone's subjective feeling looking at the lume. Fourth is distinctiveness. So it's not exactly the same as uniqueness of design. Distinctiveness also has to do with, does the watch stand out on its own? Is it doing something original, but also you can tell that it's its own thing, and it has a character that is strong. So this Momentum, there's other watches that kind of look like this, doesn't have that strong of a character. This Doxa has a very strong character. We all know that it's the Doxa. From across the room, this darn thing's a Doxa. That's a very strong distinctiveness score. A lot of watches look like this darn Rolex, so that's one of the things that hurts it in the distinctiveness category. And this is a good time for me to mention with these subjective factors. The whole darn video series is subjective, technically, because I set up the scoring system. I decided that it is better to have more little hash marks on this bezel than to not have the hash marks. With Omega, this one scores really well because it's got little dots all the way around. I love to see that. It's got this bezel lock. It's got this lever thing covering the crown. These are what contribute to the high score. And yes, that's my subjective opinion that those are good things to have. But what's not subjective about it is we can all measure that. You can look at the Omega. You can see it's got numerals. It's got slashes. And this Unimatic has none of that stuff. We can objectively measure that. We can objectively measure the thickness, the width. The subjective part of it is that I say this particular bezel type is superior to the other one. Well, in these new subjective factors we're adding, it's not something that can be measured objectively. Brand heritage, how do you measure that objectively? You really can't, because it may just come down to marketing. It may just be my impression, because I say Rolex has a higher brand heritage. Rolex and Omega, they have higher brand heritage than Seiko. That's based on marketing. And that's my personal belief. There might be a Seiko fanatic there who says Seiko has better brand heritage than Rolex. It has better brand heritage than Omega. That's possible. Looks and aesthetics, that's totally subjective. The lume thing, that's a little bit less, but some people might say a particular lume looks better than I think. People can disagree. Distinctiveness, completely subjective. I had a hard time even kind of defining what this factor really means. Affordability, that is actually objective. When you put all these points together, you end up with 50 here. Sort of like 50 things to play with. Now, affordability is a penalty, but you know, if you take the absolute value, these all add up to 50. So there's a lot we're doing in this latest video to adjust it. That basic score still factors in. The scoring system that I set up, it still is a factor. It's just there's a lot on top of it now. Plot twist. Okay, this is not really a plot twist because I've been talking about it the whole darn series. Top 10 conventional. There's going to be two top 10s. There's going to be a top 10 enthusiast and a top 10 conventional. The entire scoring system was based on like an enthusiast kind of a perspective. Yeah, the reason I did this is because there's watches such as this Doxa 600T that really, really appeal to me. And other ones, like large ones, large watches. I like large watches. I'm wearing a 52 millimeter watch right this moment. I recognize, you know, Teddy Bulbasaur, people like him. I'm sorry, I keep making that joke. I've said that every single video. Baldassar. Teddy Baldassar. There, I got it right. He's awesome. Check him out. He's great. But anyway, they kind of recommend, you know, 40, 42, these other kind of sizes. So what I found, like in the Enthusiast top 10, for example, there are 4 watches in there that are 45 millimeters or larger. Because in my scoring system, 45 millimeters, anything from 38 to 45, I just had a broad net. I was just welcoming to all, okay? So I said, if it's up to 45, no penalty. A dive watch can be that big and not be a problem. That's my perspective. 45 is no problem. It feels great. I know it's also, let's go back to this thing. Plot twist. Okay, higher priorities now are size, the diameter, and the thickness. Yeah, I just want to make the thickness a little bit tighter as well. People generally prefer automatic movements, so there's sort of a additional bonus or penalty, however you want to look at it, for, you know, bonus for automatic, maybe penalty for quartz. Affordability is a bigger factor for conventional as well. Mainstream, I think that's a good thing to call it. Mainstream watch purchasers are not necessarily going to save up for as long as an enthusiast would. And then aesthetics, kind of different aesthetics. Yeah, in the enthusiast one, there's 4 at least that are a little bit quirky looking in the enthusiast top 10. And so for the conventional top 10, it's going to be more conventional. And we've got your average cost here. Average cost of the enthusiast one was 45 hundo. Average cost of the conventional top 10 is 24 hundo. So almost half, not quite half, but yeah. And then this conventional one, the largest watch in there is 44. There's just one that's that big. And then all the others are 42 or less. And like I showed before, the enthusiast, there's actually 4 of the watches in the top 10 that are 45 or bigger. It'll be a big difference between these two top 10s. And I think it's good. It's sort of good to have 2 top 10s. That's the way I did it. All right. Am I forgetting anything important? Yeah, if you just want to see the top 10, I recommend you skip ahead and go check that out. That'd be a good thing to do. There's timestamps for all this sorts of stuff in here. I don't know yet if I'll do timestamps for every round, but obviously you can see that right now, even though I have not made the decision at time of recording whether I will put so many timestamps in. We're going to do the Enthusiast top 10 now, and then after that I'll do the conventional. But what it starts off with is the 50 finalists. So what these are in every price category. I apologize if you're watching this thing on a cell phone. The whole video is not going to be like this with these tiny, tiny little watches you can barely see. They will be bigger. On this video, I wanted you to see all of these. So I'm going to be looking at 50 watches. That's all that are being considered in these subjective things. I tried to do larger numbers and it just got too difficult to handle. So 50 is a reasonable number of things to try to rank from beginning to end. 25 of these things are just the top 5s out of every video. In video number 1, budget, under 330, here are the top 5. Video 2, affordable. Video 3, mid-tier. Video 4, premium. And video 5, luxury. That's what these are. I'm going to go over them one at a time so you can see them. But yeah, those were the top 5s from each video. I'll show you them in detail. So in that budget video, these were the top 5. The absolute top one was the Momentum SQ30 Eclipse. It's a solar quartz watch. It's got nice crown guards here, a day date, an accented orange hand. It's got a full lume bezel that I liked. And yeah, got a good score. The Elang V1213S also was in the top 5. I didn't care for the looks of it, I'll be honest. But it's a solar quartz. It's got tritium tubes on it. It's got a day date. Like, its specs just entitled it to kind of be in the top 5. So here it is. It probably won't get very far since I don't care for how it looks. Yeah, in these categories, like if you do really poorly in any of these categories, it's very hard to survive. You'll see that as we do this. It's like you saw what they were worth. It's like 12 points. Could you lose 12 points and still win? No, it's pretty darn hard. So if you're at the bottom of the pack in anything like looks, this is at the bottom of the pack for me. So it's just out. I'm just telling you now that this has no chance of winning. It's out. We also saw the Skurfa Diver 1 D1 500. This is a quartz watch that is titanium. Only 315 bucks. It's a 500 meter watch. And at 14.5 millimeters, it was just about average. The Islander ISL 61 had a full lume dial, full lume bezel. Looking good. Also day date. And then the last in the budget one was this Citizen Promaster Dive. And this was a solar quartz as well. One of these Broncos watches, orange and blue, that I like. In the affordable category, 330 to 550 bucks. These were the top 5 right here. We had that Aquatico Supermarine, 1,000 meters water resistance, crazy. It's under 500 bucks. It's only 15.5 thick, so it's less than the average, thinner than the average for the depth rating. Crazy lume. This is absolutely nuts. Lume on this thing, one of the best in the whole darn series. We also had this Helson Caribbean. It had a pretty cool multi-function bezel here with decompression scale and also you know, the elapsed time. Sort of looking like a Doxa, but not totally. I mean, there's no Doxa that looks like this exactly. We had that Zelos Swordfish. Zelos Swordfish is a sweet watch. Very cool. This one's titanium, looking so cool. Amazing lume. We also had a Seiko Tuna. This one's a solar tuna. Interesting lume that stopped at the 20. That was kind of funny. But this thing's actually pretty darn thin. 11.8. Yeah, it was kind of a big one. 47 millimeters across. And then the ProTech USMC, I think it's ugly. So, as you already know, it stands no chance if I don't like how it looks. Mid-tier, we had this really cool Citizen that does a bajillion different things, and it's synchronizes, and look at this crazy lume. That was pretty darn sweet. We had this H2O Kalmar Slim. When they mean slim, they really mean slim. This thing is 12 millimeters thick, same as the Rolex Submariner, which is considered a very thin watch. But this goes to 3,000 meters. It's literally ridiculous. This particular watch right here probably has the highest like depth rating to thinness, like thinnest for the depth rating. It's just nuts. Nothing comes close. This thing is insanely thin. Yeah, people are struggling to get 12 millimeters with a 100 meter water resistance watch. And this thing goes down to 3,000. So it's absolutely nuts. I don't know how they did it. Very cool. We had the Raven Endeavor, which I've already spilled the beans that it's on my list as one I would like to purchase in the next couple months if they don't sell out of them, which they probably will. But it's a 500 and it's 12 millimeters thick, which is very thin for the 500. 500 meter depth rating has an average thickness of 14.5. It's quite thin. Circular Dive Sport, beautiful. This yellow dial is so gorgeous. Incredible lume on this thing. I mean, this is a looker and it's got the specs to back it up. So that was really cool. Deep Blue Master 2000. I'm not going to say it's a looker, but good grief, the lume is fantastic. You get your day date, cool sword hands. I mean, this is looking cool. Super thick though. In the premium category, that was a tough competition. It's starting to get pretty darn tough. Luxury was the most competitive, but yeah, premium is very competitive as well. We had the Doxa Sub 300 winning the premium. Lume is not anything to write home about, but the looks really resonate with me. Really like the looks and everything. This Buhlmann decompression watch has so many cool features. Very cool watch. We also have the Sinn 105. Very excellent, smaller, thinner than that Rolex Submariner, but yeah, you have a multi-function bezel, you have a day date, a lot of cool stuff going on here. We have that Yema Superman 500. There's the green one. There's other options here, black, blue, white. This one has a cool bezel lock. So this little thing over the bezel, it locks it down. When you screw down that crown, you can't turn it. It's a nice feature. We saw the Echo Nutra. That was 5th place in the premium. Looks really darn cool. You get your no decompression times on this bezel. Beautiful looks to it. Power reserve, which we don't see a ton of power reserves, but that is a sweet, sweet complication on a dive watch. And then in the luxury category, we had these 5 you see before you right here. That Zen T1 got first place. 1,000 meters, but also very thin. 12.5 is all it is for the 1,000. The average for 1,000 is 15.7 millimeters. So yeah, this is 3 millimeters thinner than average. Crazy. Ball Engineer Hydrocarbon EOD. We saw that one. Just ridiculous specs on this thing. It can survive explosions and stuff with the amount of G's it can take. And then very high magnetic resistance. Very cool. Doxa sub 4000T. It's almost the same as that 300T, just a different look, and you get your power reserve. Otherwise, pretty darn similar. Different bracelet, but we saw that Seal Omni Diver Mark 1. This particular one is very unique. It's only made in very small batches. Good luck actually getting hold of one if you really want one. They do make them though, and you can get on that waiting list, so it's still in the running, but very cool watch. The depth rating is insane on this. It's one of it's tied for 3rd place for deepest watches. There's 3 of them in that. There's 3 6,000 meter dive watches. It's very thin for that rating, the 15 millimeters. And we saw the Omega Ploprof. I really like this bezel lock here, the button here, the plongeur, and then you get this nice lever covering the crown. Very cool watch. Beautiful lume on this thing. That's definitely one of its strong suits. Enormous, of course. And the depth ratings, you don't need a depth rating so deep. It's so crazy. I gave it extra points, but not very much, because it gets a lot of penalties for being super thick too. So those were the 25 that actually, just specs-wise, under my scoring system, they rose to the top. But I wanted to grab some other ones. So there's 25 more watches in here that I'm calling wild cards. I selected, they have high scores, but they also, I thought they should have a chance at the top 10. Sinn UX is filled with oil. Rolex Submariner Date, had to include that, right? Squale 1521 Kosk. Certina DS Super, this one has a safety bezel, i.e. it won't turn unless you push in while you're turning it. Draken Tugela, pretty cool looking micro brand. The Serica, very unique looking watch with this multifunction, hours and minutes. Love that type of bezel. Benares Mako, I really like these guys. A little bit pricey, but they make some really cool looking watches. Blancpain, I thought there should be a Blancpain in here, even though it wasn't top of the pack in luxury by any means, but I just thought it should have a chance. Seiko Turtle, very solid option in this price range. Thought it should have a chance. The Triton Subphotique, kind of an interesting watch here. Very cool way they protect the crown. Helson Shark Diver. Helson is a very strong watch brand in this price range. $350. Very cool option. I would definitely look into them. Very thin here, 12 millimeters. Very nice. The Steinhardt, I included a Steinhardt in here. This one is kind of a unique design. So way to go Steinhardt, doing something a little bit different. Beautiful lume on this. Titoni, I really like the looks of this one. That's why I grabbed this one. Tudor Pelagos, oh man, I love this thing. I really, really like the Tudor Pelagos. It hits on several levels because it's really sweet to look at. It's a beautiful watch, and it's also really tooly. So it ticks a ton of boxes. The Z.R.C. Grand Formes 3000, very unique, quirky looking watch. I like quirky looking watches. I like watches with a personality. So that's one reason I grabbed that one. Mido Ocean Star, looking good. Nithun Scuba, I really got excited by how cool this one looks. And then I got turned off by the Mercedes hand. I put it in here, well, let's see how it does. Beautiful lume on this thing, crazy good lume. Tag Heuer Aqua Racer. I wanted a tag in here, I thought this was the best looking one of them. This is looking good. Oh, that reminds me, yeah, the Kith came out at time of recording. The thing just came out, the Tag Heuer Kith. What do they call it? The Kith Heuer? Anyway, that wasn't included in the video. Sorry, I wish I could have gotten it in, but obviously it came out right as I'm finishing this whole series. I also grabbed the Citizen ProMaster Fujitsubo. Not a very high score on it, but it looks amazing. I love how this thing looks. You know, we've got brand heritage, looks, lume, all these sorts of things factor in. So the story can change. You know, I wanted to get scores that were all greens. I didn't get any yellows. Yeah, this one deserves a spot. It deserves consideration. That Omega Seamaster, it's got to join the party. Let's join the party, Omega. Bell & Ross, people rave about this one. Ceramic watch. Yeah, very few square watches on the market, so looking cool. The Delma Shellstar Titanium. I don't know why I didn't say this with more watches. I probably should have teased other ones and been like, oh, this one's a player in the top 10 in the last video. I should have done that more. The only one I did was the Delma Shellstar. I was like, guys, watch out. It's going to be a player in the last video. And it is. Great lume. I love how this thing looks. Another Broncos watch. Deep Blue Diver 1000. I think this is the only wild card from the budget category that I grabbed. $150. It is very thick. It's not much to look at. So, yeah, most of the budget ones were not really much to look at. So, in that space, you can find good lookers. But I'm just saying, when you compare them to watches in the higher price tiers, they just don't measure up. Or they're Chinese. And I didn't want to do a ton of Chinese homages at the end. But they would have lost a ton of points anyway. That's why I didn't include them, because they really wouldn't have much of a chance, because distinctiveness, they would just get the lowest possible score, because they're just copying somebody else. Grand Seiko, the only Grand Seiko being considered for this last deal. It's titanium. Power reserve on this thing, looking so good. Dots all the way around that bezel, love to see it. And this is the last wild card, the Seiko Samurai. Beautiful dial on this. Oh man. This looks so darn good. It's only $5.95. I mean, Seiko really makes a good, affordable dive watch. And here they all are. Here's all 50. Again, if you're on a phone, good luck. Yeah, this isn't going to come across so well. But yeah, here they all are on one screen. Oh, and here's the lume for all of them. Got your top fives over here on the left and your wild cards on the right. All the lume shots. That will factor into the score at the end. All right, you've seen all the 50 watches that are being considered, and I've kind of explained what's going on, so let's go ahead and get started here. Let's start going through the rounds. Before we start going through any of these rounds, here's where they would be if we did not adjust the scores. So Sinn has the top score of all of these. You got your Sinn, your Ball, Momentum, Omega. This is just where they stand, 1 through 10. We're going to keep an eye on Rolex Submariner throughout this whole thing, in this little box. But each round after I go through, this will update. And yeah, the Rolex, right now it's in 31st place. So not even halfway up the 50. Obviously that will change as we start applying things such as brand heritage. And that's the first thing, brand heritage. Here they all are on the screen. There's no other way I can show all this to you, so apologize for mobile users. You don't need to look at every one of these and think about it critically. But what the point is I took all the pictures and I sorted them from highest brand heritage to lowest. Highest brand heritage is the Blancpain. We've got Blancpain, then Rolex, then Omega, then Grand Seiko, then Tag Heuer, then Tudor. You get the point. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. At the bottom is Yilang. That has the lowest brand heritage. Protec, Scurfa, Momentum. Like, if you compare them to other watches in their particular price range, these are probably actually fairly high brand heritage for those price ranges. It's just when you throw them with the big boys, the Omegas and the Citizens and the Seikos, like Yilang, Scurfa, they're just not going to measure up. Okay, I mentioned before, brand heritage is 12 points. Let's see, who was kicked out of the top 10? Not a surprise, Momentum, low brand heritage. It lost 20 places. It was in 3rd place. It's now in 23rd place after you adjust for brand heritage. Man, that's a precipitous fall. Buhlmann was in 5th place. Now it's in 24th place. So these guys are kicked out. They're no longer in the top 10. And here's what it is after the adjustments. We've got a couple new guys on the block. We've got Grand Seiko joining the party and Sinn 105 STSA. And these arrows here, the green ups and the red downs, I only do it if it moves 4 or more places. So Omega Proplaf was in 4th place. It moved up 2 spots to 2nd place. Yeah, I'm not going to do an arrow for each one. I think that's too much information. I just tried to show moves of 4 spots or greater. So Tag Heuer definitely gained some once you accounted for brand heritage. Rolex jumped up 19 spots. So it's now in 12th place, just below the top 10. It has a chance here, people. Sinn 105 joined the party. Ball lost a little bit. I mean, Ball is by no means bad brand heritage, but some things overtook it. Sinn and Tag Heuer overtook it. Okay, let's do round 2. looks than aesthetics. And talk about something that's subjective. Oh my goodness. I love the Doxa. That's my favorite. Of all these watches, I think that one looks the absolute best. Call me crazy. That's the one I like the best. Tudor Pelagos. That's my second favorite. This Raven. Oh man, I love how that thing looks. Triton. You get the point. Ylang, again, it's not anything to look at. You see on the bottom here, deep blue. I didn't really care for the looks of that. I mean, I'll be honest, I kind of like the looks of most watches. There's very few I would say like, oh, I wouldn't wear that at all. But I did my best to rank these according to my personal preference. What kind of watch do I like? And like this Benares. It's Benares. I love watches with those kind of shark teeth. I love how the Zello swordfish looks. You know, yeah, this is a window into what I prefer with dive watches. All right, how did it shake out? Well, Omega Ploprof, it lost a lot. It's kind of kicked out. It kind of looks ugly, so it lost a lot of the looks. It was in second place, now it's in 14th. The only thing that really changed, yeah, that Omega Ploprof went out. Tudor Pelagos is in now. It was in 18th place, now it's in 10th. Rolex didn't move very much. And now for round 3, Lume. Here's the Lume impressiveness. Here's how it's ordered. The Tudor Pelagos FXD has the best Lume in my opinion, followed by this deep blue Master 200, and so on and so forth. Some of this is based on the pattern. When you have a full Lume dial, I think that's really nice. But there's some, like this Benares Mako, that have such strong Lume that they kind of jump ahead of other ones. Like the Bell & Ross has a full Lume bezel, but I think some of these other ones just have stronger, like basic Lume, that they are stronger than it. You know, the Samurai has stronger Lume than the Bell & Ross, in my opinion, due to these really thick markings. So I think that's going to look better. It was just based on the shots. What does it look like is the best? And yeah, you can only tell so much from a shot, but I still think it's valuable. I still think these are important. So after the Lume, who gets kicked out? Well, Sinn 105 and Doxa sub 4000T don't have the greatest Lume. So those are kicked out. Those are gone. So here's the top 10 after the Lume round. A lot of big shifts here. Rolex lost a lot of ground. The Doxa lost 7 places? Yeah, that Doxa was in second place, and it's all the way down to 9th place now due to its Lume not measuring up. Oh, Omega's getting chopped off here. Sorry about that. Omega came up dramatically. Omega Lume is really good. I'll show you the Omega. Here's that Omega Ploprof Lume. Very good. Full Lume bezel. Really cool with the green mixed with the blue. Strong Lume on the Omega, no doubt. Triton also, well, I was helpful. I put a little Triton logo here. Also looking really good on this Lume. All right, let's move on to the next one. Distinctiveness. So Ploprof is extremely distinctive. You can see it across the room. You know what it is. It's its own style. Nobody even tries to copy it. It's its own. It's one of one. The Ploprof is the Ploprof. So that's sort of what I mean by the distinctiveness thing. It's not just unique in its looks. It's also very strong character, and you don't really have a ton that look exactly like it. So if you get one of the watches that are highly rated up here, it's a very distinctive watch, very unique. Not a ton like it. Not as many points for this, only 7 points. But let's see how it shakes out after that. Sinn UX is out of the top 10 circle. It's a little bit of a plain design, so yeah, it's out. It lost 4 places. So after round 4, here's where everything is. Things didn't move around all that much at all. So the only thing that had a noticeable increase was that Ploprof. Well, it had the highest distinctiveness score of all. So yeah, that definitely helped it rise through the ranks a little bit. So Mariner lost 4 places due to its design being pretty plain and not standing out particularly well in terms of design. And I'm just going to go ahead and foreshadow because this next round, round 5, affordability, I don't show when I show you the top 10, I'll just go through them one at a time and that'll be their final scores. So this is I'm just letting you know, Rolex, in the very end, it's kind of back where it started. once we apply affordability, that hurts it considerably. It's going to lose 8 spots after we do the affordability formula, and it's going to end in 33. But yeah, let's go ahead and look at the affordability. I hope you guys are fine. I'm not like, in these intermediate rounds, I'm not like necessarily talking about each watch. I think that would get old. All right, let's look at round 5. Round 5, affordability. So this is the formula I used. I took the price of the individual watch, I divided it by the most expensive watch that's even in the running, and that's the Blancpain 50 Fathoms over here, 16,500. I wanted the penalty to be between 0 points and 7 points off. And so, yeah, the Blancpain loses 7 points, but watches that are less than this, they're not going to lose as much. So I'll go through a couple examples quick. Grand Seiko, that thing's 11,600 bucks. You divide it by the Blancpain price, and that gets you 0.7. So it's 70% the cost of the Blancpain. 70% times the -7 gives you -4.9. So the penalty is 5 points off. Grand Seiko loses 5 points out of the 7 points. Zello's Swordfish, it's 500 bucks. You do all this, and you only get a -0.2 of a point, and I round all these things, so its penalty is 0. A $500 watch does not get a penalty, but an $11,600 watch gets a 5-point penalty. That's how it all worked out. All right, let's see what the top 10 is. Top 10 dive watches, Enthusiast. In 10th place, we have the Circula Dive Sport. It's 42 millimeters across, it's 13.4 millimeters thick, and the price is 978 bucks. Its original score on my sorting system was 87, so, B+. And it stayed a B+ after all these subjective factors were accounted for. Seems like it was pretty good to begin with. Brand heritage, very low. It's 5 out of 12, so the brand heritage was not helping it at all. Aesthetics, very high aesthetics on this. This looks so good. It just looks so good to me. The color match date wheel, this dial just looks so cool. Yeah, very good design on this. It's a titanium watch. The loom is very impressive. It's only getting 8 out of 12 points, but this is fantastic loom. You can tell that it's going to be strong too. The hands are quite strong here. Distinctiveness, only got a 4 out of 7. It's more distinctive than average, but it is also a little bit plain. And then it didn't lose any points because, yeah, $1,000 when you compare it to that Blancpain, there's really no penalty there. In 9th place is the Omega Ploprof. I'll show you if it had a move over 3. And yeah, this went down 6 ranks. So this was in 3rd place, and now it's in 9th place before we did the affordability thing. Because it lost 6 points for being $13,800. Out of range for most people, for sure. It's still in the top 10. Enthusiasts are crazy. They may find a way to save up for something if they like it enough. But yeah, this is a 48 millimeter, huge darn thing. 18.3 thick. That is nuts. Even for that depth rating of 12,000 meters, this is a ridiculous thickness. The average thickness for that depth rating is 15. So this thing is 3 millimeters thicker than average. It's crazy. It's kind of an older design, so maybe that's why, but yeah, brand heritage, top of the class. Aesthetics, bottom of the class. Loom, top of the class. Distinctiveness, top of the class. Expensiveness, huge penalty. I mean, this thing was up and down and up and down, in and out of the top 10. It's kind of funny, but in the end, it ended up in there, and I'm glad it did. This is definitely this is my personal top 10. These are the top 10 dive watches in Ben's mind. So, yeah, I really like this one. Broncos colors as well. In 8th place is the Raven Endeavor 2, size of 42 millimeters, 12 millimeters thickness, and $590. Yeah, this is the only one in the top 10 that is actually within the possibility of me saving up and purchasing. I'm just being honest about my own discipline. I'm only willing to save up for a few months at a time. I kind of like to get a watch every once in a while. maybe I'm starting to get to the point where I'm willing to just wait longer and longer and save up more money. So perhaps some of these other ones are in my future, but a watch of this amount, $590. You know, I have other watches that are that expensive, so I can definitely, I definitely want this one. Beautiful lume on it, fantastic lume. Really cool looking case here. Yeah, there's no other cases like this. This is totally unique. Very cool bracelet adjustment system. Its original score was 87. It improved once we added subjective factors. Brand heritage, it really doesn't have any, so that's very low. Lume. Amazingly, it's only 9 out of 12 on lume scale. And then, yeah, no penalties. That's probably why this is in the top 10. It was a decent watch and it didn't get that affordability penalty. In 7th place, the Tag Heuer Aqua Racer Professional 1000 Super Diver. Size of 45 millimeters, thickness of 15.7, price of $6,650. Yeah, this thing doesn't have a chance in the conventional top 10. You know, the biggest one in there is a 44 millimeter. So any watch you see that's above 44 millimeters, I guess I kind of spoiled it, doesn't have a chance. But yeah, lume is amazing on this thing. Brand heritage, very high. Tag Heuer, everybody knows about Tag Heuer. Aesthetics, I think this looks so good, but I like orange and black. Lume, fantastic. Distinctiveness, yeah, it's pretty darn distinctive, in my opinion. A little bit more than average is what it's got. 4 out of a 7, that's very cool. But it's really expensive, so that definitely hurt it here. In 6th place is that Doxa Sub 300T Professional. Size of 42.5 millimeters, thickness of 13.65, price of $1,890. It had a score of a 92. After all the subjective factors, it's still a 92. Yeah, the brand heritage is pretty darn high, I think, for Doxa. People know about Doxa who know about dive watches. It's one of the top ones up there. Aesthetics, and, you know, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I think this is the most beautiful dive watch of all time. It's my favorite looks-wise. I really love how the Doxa looks. Lume is not good. 2 out of 12. That definitely holds it back. And it is also kind of pricey. It's too pricey for me. But that's where that one ended up. In 5th place is the Tudor Pelagos FXD. Size of 42 millimeters. It's 12.8 thick. And it's $4,150. This one has welded lugs, or just there's no spring bar in between here. It's all just one piece, so you're gonna have to use a pass-through strap. It comes with this Velcro pass-through strap, which seems very nice. 12 out of 12 on lume, 12 out of 12 on style, 11 out of 12 for brand heritage. So it's just not particularly distinctive looking. So that's one place that it kind of fell behind. And it's a little bit expensive. $4,000 is very expensive, but for an enthusiasts are the guys who are buying these $4,000 watches, so it's not too crazy. But yeah, it ended up gaining 10 points to its original score. It ended up at 93. In 4th place is the Seal Omnidiver Mark 1. I put up the black one with the yellow hands. It looks so good. The blue one looked cool too, but they have different designs here. Just wanted to show you a different one of these things. 48 millimeters. Only 15 thick. Again, this is a 6,000 meter watch. Crazy, ridiculous, record-breaking kind of a depth. And yeah, price is $5,975. Yeah, it says 92 here, and the last one said 93. So these are actually rounded numbers here. So when you don't round the numbers, this ends up with a higher score than the Tudor. It's rounded just so that it all adds up. When you're looking at the scorecard, it makes logical sense if you actually add all these things and everything. But when they're unrounded numbers, it actually has a higher score than the last one. Just thought I would explain that. The brand heritage is pretty darn high. The people who know about this thing, it's very high brand heritage. Aesthetics, so cool. To me, aesthetics are very high on this. The looks, very strong lume, incredibly distinctive design. But it is very expensive. But it ended up in 4th place. Man, I would love to see one of these things in person. In 3rd place is the Triton Subphotique. 40 millimeters, 13.25 thick, and it's $5,084. Oh, these are so cool. This is one of these brands that kind of re-emerged, or they did these old Triton designs. I don't know if there's connection to the original Triton brand. Very cool French dive watches, historical French dive watch. It's a Swiss brand now, but the way they protect the crown here is awesome. The cool thing about this is this articulating piece up here. If your crown isn't fully screwed in, it's going to be at kind of a right angle. You can't really put the watch on, and you're going to notice that. It just lets you know it's not fully screwed down. It did absolutely great with the subjective stuff factored in. Score of 93. In second place is the Sinn T1. Size of 45 millimeters, 12.5 thick, very thin. Price of $3,445. Again, that 1,000 meter depth rating, and it's only 12.5 thick. Sinn makes a solid watch. So this did move more than 3 places. It was in 6th place, and now it's in 2nd place with the affordability because it's only a -1, and the ones that were ahead of it had bigger penalties here. So this jumped up spots. Distinctiveness, and again, these are the numbers were. The final ranking was based on unrounded numbers, and so that's one of the reasons. If you're trying to make sense of this sort of thing, that's why. The accountant in me loves to see rounded numbers. Yeah, this watch is so cool. This AR insert on the side here, that prevents it from fogging, and you can change that thing out in intervals, and you're not going to have fogging on the inside. And I mean, this thing is so cool. Fogging happens when you change temperatures rapidly, because there's always a very small amount of moisture in a dive watch from when it was assembled. Normally it's no problem. In first place, this thing has a score of 100. It is so far ahead of every other dive watch, it is ridiculous. At least the way I set up this whole scheme, it just ended up dominating everything. Number 1 is the Ball Engineer Hydrocarbon EOD. We knew it was going to do well with the lume because, good grief, the lume is amazing. The mix of the tritium and the traditional lume, oh my goodness. But it has a size of 42 millimeters, very wearable. 13.7 millimeters thick, that's not too crazy. Price of $3,349. Yeah, it's got a score of 100 after all these subjective factors are taken into consideration. And again, when Blancpain is your ceiling, I guess expensive it's not that expensive. Very distinctive look to it, fantastic lume. The looks of it, I love how this thing looks. It looks so good. But I like a Thule watch, so that's in the conventional top 10, I'm going to do more conventional looks. You'll see. Brand heritage, Ball is highly respected. It's not at the top by any means, see 8 out of 12, but Ball is respected. Those were the top 10 dive watches, in my humble opinion. Circula, Omega, Raven, Tag Heuer, Doxa, Tudor, Seal, Triton, Sinn, and the Ball. And just for fun, let's look at the 5 runners-up. The honorable mentions. That Delma Shell Star, I said it was going to be a contender. We didn't see it at all going up and down. It was going up and down, but it was doing it below the top 10. It was close. It could have made it, I guess, if it had more brand heritage. Yeah, because 10th place was a score of 89. So just to add 1 point on anywhere, and this Delma is up in there. And again, we've got rounding things going on here, but yeah, the Doxa sub 4,000. Not quite as cool looking as the 300, so didn't quite make the top 10. This oil-filled Sinn, oh, that thing is so cool, but it didn't make it in the top 10, but it's a runner-up. And the Bell & Ross, also very cool watch. I think it got kicked out for the expensiveness. If it wasn't so darn expensive, it would be in the top 10. If it was like a $2,000 watch or something. Money is a factor people like to consider. The Certina DS Super, that's our last runner-up. All right. As I promised, let's go ahead and do the top 10 conventional now. All right, so totally different finalists on this, totally different 50 watches we're considering. There's a little bit of overlap, but yeah, here they are. Again, sorry, mobile users. Here they are. Did I promise to zoom in and then I just didn't zoom in? I'm so sorry. I think I was planning to zoom. It didn't actually work. But yeah, there's a few new guys in here. I'll point those out as we go through, but wow, yeah. Here's our 5 price categories and the top 5s from each one. So 25 watches here. I will go through them. The new ones are the Redwood. That's a 40 millimeter. That's 11.2 thick. Quantico's new. That's a 38 millimeter. That's 12.5 thick. It has all these colors: black, blue, orange, pink, tan, blue, white, green. Tons of color options. Aragon Evo, that's new as well. Only 40 millimeters. Very cool colors here. For 500 meters, 13 millimeters is not very thick. Good lume on this thing too. And this is new as well, the Vare Meridian Tactical Solar. Another smaller one, 42 millimeters across, 11.6 millimeters thick. In the affordable price tier, we've got some new ones here as well. The LumeTech Solar Marine is new, 10.7 millimeters thin. That is a very thin watch, 39 across. Very nice wearing proportions for those who like a smaller watch. A little bit too small for me, I think, but I would still wear it though. I like wearing small watches too. For dive watches, I like a big one, but I like all sizes of watches. I really do. Erebus is new to the party. It actually got 11th place in the affordable, but yeah, when you do conventional scoring, it scores so much better. It's a 41, great size, and 12.7 thick. It's not too thick. About a half a millimeter below the average for 200 meters. Water resistance. Helson joined the party, I believe. I don't think it was in the top 5 before. Look at all these darn colors. Black, blue, green, orange, pale blue, yellow. Great lume. Quite thin. Thinner than that Erebus. It's only 12, but it's a 500 meter water resistance. I don't know what they did here. Very thin for that depth rating. Crazy. And that Scarfa Treasure Seeker's new as well. Benefited probably by the automatic bonus, because before we had a Scarfa that was a quartz. I believe that is gone. Yeah, that Scarfa quartz got kicked out, but we have a Scarfa auto. It was a minor adjustment, but you see it actually did affect the scoring. In mid-tier, Raven, Circula, and H2O, we saw those before. I'll talk about the Certina though. This is 38 millimeters only, and it's 12.2 thick. So very pleasing size, conventional size. Zelos Mako, 40 millimeters across, 11.5 thick. That is so thin. So yeah, thinner than that Rolex Submariner by a half a millimeter. Beautiful full lume dial here. Yeah, these Zelos watches are so solid. In the premium price tier, I think we already saw the Zen 105 as well as the Seiko Doxa. I don't know. We're seeing some different stuff. I did put up different colorways for the conventional one to keep it fresh, and also, just more conventional colorways like the black. More crowd pleasing, more mainstream, if you will. The Seiko here, yeah, I think we've seen all the other ones. I'll talk about the Ganalt a little bit. This one is 41 millimeters across, and it is 12.1 millimeters thick. It's pretty much just Rolex Submariner size right here, but it's $1,149. Oh yeah, they copied a lot. This has got crazy text on the dial. What does it say? It's a chronometer. Interesting. Kinetic continuous. Submersible maritime. Somebody's high on their own supply with some of this verbiage here. Or maybe it's tongue-in-cheek. I bet it's tongue-in-cheek. That's what it is. Hand-built in America. Very cool sapphire bezel insert here, protecting that lume, which is really nice because that lume can get scratched or stained. And look at that full lume. Beautiful. In the luxury price tier, on the conventional scoring system, Rolex is number 4. Omega Seamaster Diver 300 007 edition is number 5. Breitling Adventure Auto 42, all these guys jumped up when I started doing the size thing more. I mean, that's where Rolex shines, is its size. 41 millimeters, only 12 thick. Yeah, it's a major contender in the conventional top 10. And then Seamaster as well. Well, this particular Seamaster, it's thinner than the normal Seamaster 300. The 007 edition is thinner. It might be the difference between a solid case back and a display case back. So you lose 0.7 millimeters. If that's true, why are we doing display case backs? That's a huge thickness savings. But yes, Breitling Avenger Auto, praised for its nice wearable size, 42 millimeters, and then 12.1 thick. Very similar dimensions to the Rolex, from what I can tell. Longer lugs, it appears. All right, and then we've got wild cards. Wanted to bring in some wild cards. We saw that Bell & Ross and the Omega before. Decided to bring in this Revelo Hex Mariner. So these are all based on conventional scoring. Everything did differently with the conventional score system over the Enthusiast score system I used originally. So some of these, like this Titoni C-Scope or Carbon, it did a lot better on the conventional things. So here it is. It's a 42. Christopher Ward, I thought that was a nice conventional looking one. Longines Hydro Conquest, I think this looks like a very nice conventional looking watch. And it's got a very high conventional score as well. We already had these two before. Manta, I brought Manta in. That's a nice, great size, 41 millimeters, 12 millimeters thick. So it's that nice size that people are liking. That came in. It's got good specs as well. The Aquatico Super Ocean, we didn't see that one before, but its size here is what had it join the party. Zelos also joining the party. Helston Skin Diver 38. It's a 38 millimeter, 13.3 thick. Great size. This is that the mid-tier? I believe it's a mid-tier watch. Nice lume on that thing. Brought in the Fathers. A little bit different. It's still kind of a conventional looking watch. A few kind of unique things about it. Handset is kind of interesting. Ton of colors available on this thing. But yeah, it's 40 millimeters and 11.9 thick. So thinner than that Rolex Submariner. Then I brought in the Dievas Maya. That is a nice looking watch. Kind of it looks like a pilot watch actually. But it's 1,000 meters depth rating. It's only 13.8. The average is 15.7 for that depth rating. So it's fully 2 millimeters thinner than average for the 1,000 meter depth rating. Squale 1521, very conventional looking watch. Great size, 42 millimeters and 12.5. Yeah, I think this scored a lot higher on the conventional system rather than the Enthusiast system. Doxa Sub 600. I think I had the orange one before, and now we're looking at the black. Echo Neutral. This was in the top 5 in the other one, but it's a wild card on this one. Deep Blue, I brought that one in again because I want to see if it'll work for conventional. Is it going to do better? Sinn T1, I mean, that did so well in the last one, I figured give it a chance in conventional. Let's see if it wins here too. Also the U50, same sort of idea here. Vertex, that's looking like a nice conventional watch, 40 millimeters, 14 millimeters thick. Ball Engineer Hydrocarbon, 40 millimeters and 14.5 thick. It's got a good conventional score. Let's give it a chance. And then this time, Triton Spyro Technique. Before we had the Sub Photique, this is the Spyro Technique, just a little bit different. All right, so those are our watches. These are the 50 watches that have a chance of winning top 10 conventional. We're gonna do rounds now and see who comes out on top. And here's their lume shots. Got some solid lume. That Revelo Hex Mariner, that's looking really good. Aragon Evo, there's some lume shots that are catching my attention. The Ganalt here, I don't think we had those in the Enthusiast. Some different stuff in play here. So if you just take their unadjusted scores and you put them on the screen, this is how they would end up. Rolex would be number 8. Seamaster 007 would be number 10. You know, you get the idea. We're going to watch the Seamaster 300. That's going to be the one in the box over here. We had the Rolex last time. This time, let's take a look at that Seamaster 300, see how it does. Watch its ranking. I'm expecting it to kind of stay below the top 10. That's why I put this little box over here. So we'll see if it comes up into the top 10. That would be interesting. Yeah, Sinn 105 is the winner of, if you don't adjust the scores. But we are going to adjust the scores right now. Round 1. Brand Heritage. There's no Blancpain in this one, so Rolex gets number 1, followed by Omega and Breitling and Sinn. Similar to before. But yeah, I ordered all 50 of these in this order. I didn't explain this before, but yeah, in this one, Brand Heritage is a little bit higher. You get 13 points instead of the 12 before. Let's take the Citizen Fujitsubo as an example. Okay, so 50, 40, 39, 38, 37, 36. This is in 35th place. So let's take 35, divide it by 50. We get 70. It's 70% of the way up. Multiply the 70 by the 13, you get 9. So the Citizen gets 9 points for Brand Heritage, whereas this Rolex would get 13 points for Brand Heritage. Revelo would get 0 points for Brand Heritage. Nobody's heard of Revelo. Erebus, I'm sorry Jody, but you're nobody knows who you are, buddy. Maybe this should come up a little. I don't know. I feel good about the rankings. I'm not going to second guess the rankings. So after Brand Heritage is taken into effect, we lost Yema, We lost Seiko. Dang! Seiko went down 18 spots. Seiko is not all that well known, apparently. I put it middle of the pack. I didn't, like, say it was horrible. Okay, I just kind of put it in this micro-brandy area with Helsinn and Circula and Deep Blue, but it just got wrecked. Yema as well. These lost a ton of points. And that's because I think, it's kind of major sorts that happen in these earlier rounds. Okay. Anyway, so what happens to our top 10? Well, Omega's in the top 10. It jumped 20 spots. Omega's in the top 10 now. It was 30th place. Now it's 10th place. It jumped 20 spots. That is a huge move. Brand heritage really helps out the Omega Seamaster Diver 300. Rolex jumped up in the second place, jumped 6 spots. Doxa jumped 4 spots. Ball fell. Is that because Ball's a bad brand? No, it's because these other brands are just... it's because Rolex has more brand heritage. Now let's do round 2. Refined looks. Before I said looks/aesthetic. Now we're going to be looking at refined looks. The conventionally minded person wants a refined watch. That's what I've decided. So Rolex is at the top. It has to be. I mean, I'm aware of what the world is, and people love that darn Rolex, so there it is. It gets the best look score. If I'm doing refined looks, if I'm doing Ben's looks/aesthetics, I don't rate it super highly. It's a nice looking watch. But here, I did some method acting. I became like the mainstream guy who's looking to get a new watch. What's going to look good to him? And I put these in order based on that, how I thought that would shake out. And yeah, Rolex is at the top. So Quantico doesn't look that great. It actually looks pretty bad. It is lacking refinement. So who got kicked out of the top 10? 4 of these got kicked out. The Sinn T1 fell 6 spots. The Omega Seamaster Diver 300 007 edition fell 5 spots. Yeah, Ball Engineer Hydrocarbon EOD fell 6 spots. Doxa Sub 300T Professional fell 5 spots. So where does this shape out? Okay, well, my plan about the Omega failed. I thought, hey, let's watch one that you can't see that's not even in the top 10, but that failed. It's in the top 10. It jumped all the way up to 3rd place. You look at conventional looks, add that into the factor. These are where they are. Rolex is in 1st place. Breitling, Omega, Sinn T50. These are conventionally looking watches right here. We lost 4. Yeah, we lost 4 watches that are not looking the most refined. And we gained some new ones. The Bell & Ross, the Yema Superman. Those joined the party. The Sinn UX must have joined the party. I'm switching this up a little bit. I'm going to do the affordability first so you can see the effect, the full effect of the affordability. So let's apply the affordability. I mentioned before that for the conventional, for the mainstream watch purchaser, affordability is a higher concern than for the enthusiast. The enthusiast, this is like a major passion of theirs or whatever. For the conventional, the mainstream guy, he wants a nice watch, but doesn't understand why it needs to be so expensive. So I set this lower. I set this a lot lower, and the penalty is higher too. How this shakes out, I set it at 6,000 just to kind of be like the peak of what I thought someone in the mainstream would be willing to spend for a watch. And then 8 points is kind of the max that I thought should get a penalty up to that 6,000. So yeah, Rolex gets wrecked with this. Penalty is minus 14 points. So yeah, you take Rolex MSRP of 10,800. And that's only if you bring them the charcuterie board. If you just buy this thing on Chrono 24, it's going to be like 14 Gs. 12 or 14, way over list. But yeah, you can pay list if you butter those guys up. But yeah, is the average guy going to do that? Probably not. It's only the enthusiast that's going to want to do all that stuff. So yeah, this gets a severe penalty, minus 14. But then example 2, take the Certina DS Action, $970. We apply the formula, and it gets a penalty of minus 1. So it gets a 1-point penalty for being $1,000. I think the conventionally minded person is probably only looking to spend $500 or $1,000 for their watch. They're not looking to spend crazy amounts. So yeah, let's see how this all shakes out. Not a surprise, Rolex down 18 spots. It goes down to 19th place. Seamaster goes down 11 spots. The gold bronze Sinn goes down 11 spots. Bell & Ross, these are all expensive watches. They lost a ton of places. Okay, who came up? Squale came up 8 places, joined the party. Yema joined the party as well. I think it was in the party earlier and then it left and now it's back. 7 points, jumped back up here into 4th place. Doxa is back in. Doxa is more affordable. Citizen Pro Master, look, went up 12 rankings. This Fujitsubo is very affordable. Came up through the ranks. Omega, yeah, went down 11 points. We already saw that. And the final thing is going to be the Loom. And I'll just foreshadow for you on the Omega because I'm not going to show the rankings after the Loom. Omega, it's going to go down to 21st place. It's going to lose 7 more points with the Loom. The Loom is not that impressive on this Omega Seamaster Diver 300. Rolex is already out. I can tell you that already. Yeah, it went down to 19th place. It can't recover after that. We know its Loom is mediocre. It doesn't have the greatest Loom. So when you compare it to these things with the full bezels and stuff, Rolex just doesn't compare. So it's out. Hate to break that news. Rolex did not make the top 10. Neither did the Omega Seamaster Diver 300. But here's the Loom shots. I put them in order from best, Zelos Black Tip, to least impressive, the Sinn 105. By no means a bad Loom shot. Like, I think the Loom might be pretty good on these, but the Loom is so great on all the others. Where is that Rolex? Rolex Loom. Okay, so Rolex is right here. It kind of just looks kind of average. Scurfa Diver 1, I bet that's comparable to the Rolex. Rolex can't even give us an actual picture. They do some weird computer thing. Okay, but yeah, the Scurfa is actually looking better than the Rolex. And since I'm not showing you how they all shake out, I just thought it would be interesting to kind of point out where everything was before this happened. So Breitling Avenger Auto 42 was in first place before the Loom thing, but look, its Loom is near the bottom, so that's probably going to fall. In contrast here, the Squale 1521 was in 3rd place, and its Loom is, in the top 20%. Its prospects will probably improve. Ball was in 5th place already, and look at how high its Loom is. These two are basically guaranteed to be in that top 10. You'll see how it shakes out. In contrast, this Sinn U50, that was in 10th place already, and its Loom is kind of low. Something else is probably going to come up. Let's do those top 10 conventional. In 10th place is the Doxa Sub 600T. Size 40 millimeters, thickness of 14.15, and price of $1,550. It fell at the end because of that Loom. It only had 3 out of 10. It fell 4 places. Yeah, this was in 6th place. It went down to 10. It was doing great all along until that Loom thing, and the Loom kicked it down. But it's still in the top 10. It's in the top 10 conventional dive watches. In 9th place is the Citizen ProMaster Fujitsubo. Size of 41 millimeters, thickness of 12.6, price of $796. It's got relatively high brand heritage. Loom is not that great. It's just like average Loom. The problem is there's so many darn good loomed watches in this elimination round, and so it didn't stand out with just its standard dive Loom. Reason this is in the top 10 is because it's not that expensive. $796. In the watch world, that is not too crazy. In 8th place is the Sinn UX EZM. Size of 44 millimeters, thickness of 13.3, and price of $2,810. The average price in this top 10 is a lot lower. This is above that average, though. The average is $2,400. This is $2,800. So it's lost 4 points for expensiveness. That definitely almost kicked it out of the top 10, but not quite. Yeah, this oil-filled watch is so cool. I talked about it a ton in video 5, but oh man, I really, really like this one. It will be a pain when that battery dies and you have to get it replaced. So that is unfortunate. Pretty cool watch though. In 7th place is that darn Raven Endeavor 2 again. It's in both top 10s. It's that cool of watch. It's 42 millimeters, 12 millimeters thick, and $590. Yeah, 500 meter water resistance, beautiful Loom. Brand heritage, obviously not very high. It didn't gain points for brand heritage, it gained points for everything else. It jumped up 15 places at the end for the Loom. Like, it was nowhere near the top 10, and then kapow at the end. It jumped right up in there because this lume is really, really good. In 6th place is the Bell & Ross BR0392. 42 millimeters across, I believe horizontally, 13.2 millimeters thick, and 4,600 bucks. It does have full lume bezel. I think their lume shot just wasn't that great. They didn't point it towards the camera. They didn't turn off the lights. I think they could have gotten a much better lume shot, and this probably would have rated higher, to be honest, because the lume, well, it's 7 out of 10. It could have been higher, though. I bet the lume could have been a little bit higher if they took a better shot. But this is a really cool watch. Love the orange and the black. The ceramic is a nice weight. Very nice. In 5th place is the Breitling Avenger Auto 42. Size of 42 millimeters. Surprise. Thickness of 12.1 and 4,780 bucks. Very high brand heritage. Very good conventional looks, in my opinion. They have a green. I think they have a black and a blue as well. Sorry I didn't put the colors on this scorecard. Yeah, I missed that somehow. My apologies. Lume is nothing to write home about. It's just kind of standard lume, and they're very thin slivers, so I don't think it's going to last particularly long. Lume is not the strong suit on this one, nor is like ability to read the numbers on this bezel, because there's no paint. But yeah, this lost 4 spots. It was in 1st place, I guess, and now it's down to 5th place. Still in the top 10. Yeah, lume cost it 4 spots. It was in 1st place. In 4th position is the Ball Engineer Hydrocarbon EOD. It made a huge jump at the end due to the lume. Got 9 out of 10 on the lume. That gained it 17 spots in the rankings. And again, these are rounded numbers. That's how you can gain 17 spots. All the numbers were unrounded to compute like the rankings, but they're rounded on the scorecard. Yeah, this thing is crazy cool. Can withstand an incredible amount of shock and magnetism. Very over-engineered watch. Really cool bracelet extension on this thing. Very, very cool watch. In 3rd place, coming out of nowhere, this wasn't in the top 10, is the Circula Dive Sport. It jumped up 10 spots due to its wonderful lume here. Got an 8 out of 10 on that lume. It's a 42 millimeter. It is 13.4 millimeters thick. Price is 978 bucks. They have a lot of different colorways. I thought this black one looked really nice for the conventional. Very nice accent orange minute hand here. Cool matte black dial. Yeah, this is looking really, really good. You can get a different bezel on here if you want. I think there's a green option and like maybe a yellow option if you like. They have all these different combinations of dials and bezels that you can play around with. It's got very good looks to it. Brand heritage is good, but it's not like top of the pack by any means. It's sort of like halfway. It's a micro brand. The lume being so strong is why this is in the top 10, and it's not too expensive. In 2nd place is the Ball Engineer Hydrocarbon Original. It's 40 millimeters, 14.5. That might be the thickest in this top 10, and the price is $3,349. I was so pleased to see that Ball dive watches really did great. Like, Ball makes a really solid dive watch, is what I found out doing this video. Their field watch did not do so great. That was more of an intense scoring system. For a dive watch, man, Ball knows what they're doing. Mix of tritium and traditional lume. Cool locking lever protecting this crown here. That is so nice of a feature because you know if your crown's seated or not. Nice date 8. 1000 Gauss, so again, this is protected against magnetism really well. And number 1, this really deserves a spot. Again, it's way above the other ones. It's ahead of the pack by a lot. It's the Squale 1521 Kosk, 42 millimeters across, 12.5 millimeters thick. Price $1,676. It's not too expensive. It's got a great rating of 500 meters water resistance. It's got that orange minute hand I love. It looks so good. Skin diver case shape that is extremely popular. Full lume. It's not thick at all. 12.5 millimeters thick is 2 millimeters thinner than the actual average for 500 meters water resistance. You get your date. To me, it's the total package. This Squale 1521 just hits it all. Great brand heritage. It's actually a chronometer, and it's only $1,676. We saw like $5,000 watches that weren't chronometers. Yeah, this is a fantastic choice, in my opinion. That's the number one. The number one dive watch, I said I knew what it was. The number one dive watch is the Squale 1521 Kosk. That's the best one. Bonus time, let's do the honorable mentions. Yema Superman, that was a runner-up. It lost 7 spots there at the end with the loom. It really got kicked down a bunch. Sinn U50 is the 12th. It's a runner-up as well. Sinn 105. It was in the top 10 before loom was a factor. Look at that darn loom. Oh, man. Yeah, it lost a lot of positions there. Certina almost made it. It looks like it should have. It looks like it should have won. There's just so many darn good watches in the top 10. Yeah, I don't think the Certina deserves to be in the top 10. I think these other ones do. But here's the Certina. It's 14th place. Loom is looking good on it. And then the T1, Sinn T1, even though it's 45 millimeters, it still stood a chance. Even in the conventional system, it almost could have made it. It was just too expensive. That's really what killed it at the end. So you may be wondering, where did the Rolex go? Well, if price was no object, then the Rolex would have been the top conventional dive watch. Like, if I didn't do the affordability thing, it literally would have been first place. Would have gotten a score of 100. But I factored in affordability. I did a relatively stiff penalty for it, and therefore the Rolex didn't make it. It was just too darn expensive. I don't think it's the top dive watch because it's too darn expensive. And the Seamaster 007, same story. That would have gotten a score of 97. That would have been second place. Over $10,000, I think, is way too much for a watch. And so, in my opinion, they're not in the top 10. If you're some sort of bajillionaire, then yes. Okay, Rolex is the best. I will admit the Rolex Submariner date is the best conventional dive watch if you're a bajillionaire. And the market bears that out. Everybody's buying these darn things. In the real world, we have to consider our purchases a little more carefully. We can't all be spending $10,800 for a watch. So that's the end of the video series. What did we learn? You know, in watching this whole series, I hope that you learned a little bit about what goes into choosing a watch, just like how complicated it is. In this last video, I added all these subjective elements, and each time a different element was considered, it changed the ranking so dramatically. So it's really important to figure out what's important to you. Is it loom? Is it brand heritage? Is it affordability? What's important to you about the watch? Then make your decision through that lens. But don't consider any one factor exclusively. Like, you have to consider the watch as a whole. And there's so much that goes into it. But I really hope you enjoyed the series. And thanks for spending your time with me. So that's it. That's the end of the dive watch portion. I'm done talking about watches. And as I do in all of my watch videos, at the end of the video, I like to talk about the Bible. So that's what I'm going to do now. All right, Bible time. I'm not a pastor or a biblical scholar. I just like studying the Bible and sharing it with others. Today, I want to talk about the topic of servant leadership. And Jesus, of course, exemplifies servant leadership perfectly. There's kind of 3 major things. There's probably a million major things you could say about it, but 3 that I'm going to focus on, ways that Jesus exemplifies servant leadership, is number 1, he serves an authority higher than himself. It's part of servant leadership. It's serving something greater than oneself. Secondly, there's no job that's beneath him. He'll do anything. And third, probably the most important part of servant leadership, is that he's willing to give up everything, even himself, even his own life, for the sake of the sheep, for the sake of those who follow him. Okay, so let's go into some Bible verses. And hopefully these are in the correct order to support the 3 points I laid out. First passage is John 13:5. Let's do the New King James. Last couple times I did ESV. We'll do New King James Version. Mix it up. John 13:5. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel with which he was girded. Then he came to Simon Peter, and Peter said to him, "Lord, are you washing my feet?" Jesus answered and said to him, "What I am doing you do not understand now, but you will know after this." Peter said to him, "You shall never wash my feet." Jesus answered him, "If I do not wash you, you have no part with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." Jesus said to him, "He who is bathed needs only to wash his feet, but is completely clean, and you are clean, but not all of you." Yeah, so this is, no job is beneath you as a servant leader. And, washing, there's a lot of meaning to this passage, obviously, but washing the disciples' feet, their feet were very, very dirty. They wore sandals. The maker of heaven and earth to be washing the dirty, dirty feet of his disciples, that really threw them off. That's not something they expected out of their leaders. But Jesus was showing the leader is willing to do any job that needs to be done. The job that needed to be done is that his disciples needed to be cleansed of their sin. It is absolutely beneath the creator of heaven and earth, but he's teaching us that being a strong leader, nothing actually is beneath you. You should be able to do anything. I just kept reading. It always amuses me how Peter is trying to one-up it. "Oh, you're cleaning my feet? Well, clean my head also. Wash my hands and my head." And Jesus is like, "If you took a bath, you're okay." Anyway, very cool. All right, let's go to the next verse. Luke 22, verses 41 through 43. "And he was withdrawn from them about a stone's throw, and he knelt down and prayed, saying, 'Father, if it is your will, take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done.'" So this is an example where Jesus is serving a greater authority than himself. Well, and you can say he's willing to give his life for those that he's leading. Yeah, so this is before the cross. Before he's going to the cross, he's in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he's praying to God, "If it's your will, let this cup pass from me. Your will, not mine, be done." Jesus is serving God the Father's plan. He's serving a bigger thing than just himself. Luke 22, verses 24 through 27. "Now there was also a dispute among them, the disciples, as to which of them should be considered the greatest. And he said to them, 'The kings of the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and those who exercise authority over them are called benefactors. But not so among you. On the contrary, he who is greatest among you, let him be as the younger, and he who governs as he who serves. For who is greater, he who sits at the table or he who serves? Is it not he who sits at the table? Yet I am among you as the one who serves.'" So the disciples are trying to figure out who's the greatest. And Jesus is pointing out that we always assume the one sitting at the table is the greatest, not the one serving the ones at the table. But Jesus is telling them that he is the one who serves. He's serving the whole world with his life. That is his primary purpose, is to serve others. And so, isn't that greater? In God's eyes, that's what's the greatest thing, is for us to serve each other, not to be served. And so our human perspective, we've got it backwards. We think you're the best if you're the one getting waited on. But God is saying it's better if you're the one to wait on others. This kind of goes with the no job beneath us. Your greatness in God's eyes is determined by how much you're willing to serve others. All right, one more verse. John 10, verses 11 through 18. "I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd gives his life for the sheep. But a hireling, he who is not the shepherd, one who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees. And the wolf catches the sheep and scatters them. The hireling flees because he is a hireling and does not care about the sheep. I am the good shepherd, and I know my sheep, and am known by my own. As the Father knows me, even so I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And other sheep I have which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they will hear my voice, and there will be one flock and one shepherd. Therefore my Father loves me, because I lay down my life that I may take it again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again. This command I have received from my Father." So this is for point 3 here, that the good shepherd is willing to give his life for a sheep. The good leader is willing to give his life for a sheep. It also kind of goes into the first one too, serving a greater authority. At the end there, Jesus is saying that he's received a command from his Father, God the Father, and he is carrying out that command. But it's interesting at the beginning when Jesus is contrasting the hireling with the good shepherd. So the guy who's just punching the clock, just doing it for the paycheck, that's not the best leader. The best leader is one who takes it a level further, the one who's willing to give his life for the ones who are following him. And of course, Jesus is the best servant leader there ever was, and a great example for us to follow. That's what I had to share today on servant leadership. There's definitely more in the Bible about this topic, but that's what I wanted to share today. Now I'll close with prayer. Lord, thank you for this opportunity, this video series, to just share your word with other people. I pray that it would bless them, and I pray that your kingdom would come and that the world would be turned toward righteousness. I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace always and in every way. The Lord be with you all. See you next time. And I know that he'll be with me, will be with me.